Yeah, I got my video turned off for the moment. I'm casting on Fireside Chat app, and that was quick. Thank you for showing up. So I'm broadcasting on Fireside and also on the Wisdom app, my two favorite online communities. And I'm just gonna see if I can turn off the chat bot here. Still learning how to use this. It's been a little while. I've only maybe done a half a dozen or so of these talks using Fireside, and a few more over on the Wisdom app. And so sometimes when I invite people to speak, they run away. So Tamara, don't run away. You don't have to speak if you don't want to, but you're more than welcome. So what I like to do is my background, my hobby, passion over the last, somebody asked me when I started, and it's like 1991, 32 years. I can't believe that I have done anything for 32 years, other than maybe breathe. But my passion, my hobby over the last 32 years has been family history, genealogy, which I absolutely love. In school, I hated history. And as you can see on the wall behind me, I have a Watkins. We sell Watkins products also. A Watkins 1944 calendar that someone gifted me. And the photo, I call her Grandma Somebody. And so because I'm broadcasting here on Fireside Chat and also at the same time over on the Wisdom app, I'm going to try to be a bit descriptive. So on the wall behind me is a photo, I would say a late 1800s photo, who I refer to as Grandma Somebody. I was actually at a market selling Watkins products, and she kept looking at me and or smirking at me, depending on the day. And after about a month, I went over and put a $20 bill on the table and bought that picture. And I keep it where people can see it if I'm online, because I'm hoping against hope that somebody, perhaps someday, is going to recognize her and say, hey, what have you got? Why have you got my great grandmother up there? Why have you got? She come from a community where she may very well be one of my ancestors or sister to one of my ancestors. But if anybody on Fireside Chat or over on the Wisdom app would like help getting started, doing your family tree, doing your ancestry, or if you are looking for family, or maybe trying to get to that next generation, because we all know what it's like trying to sometimes, we call them brick walls in genealogy. The how, sorry, I just distracted. I've got my iPad and a laptop. Got the laptop set up so I can do research if somebody wants to ask questions. We all have what we call brick walls. Sometimes family members, ancestors, grandparents, whoever they may be, we just can't quite get to that next generation. So I have, over the years, not bragging here, but just to give you an idea, and maybe I can help you too. I've helped one young lady connect with her birth father, another one to find her birth record. She knew the date and the city, and so that helped. But it was back in the 60s. It was in California, and I was able to help her find that record, and also helped her to kind of point her in the right direction to where she's in touch with her birth family as well. And myself, I was adopted at a year old. I was fortunate. I grew up knowing both my birth family and my adoptive family. So if you have lost family members, or if you're looking to get started in your research, or if you're maybe trying to find an ancestor and you think I might be able to help, hit the join the conversation button, come up and speak, what have you. So here on Fireside Chat, I like to invite each person who shows up to speak, and that way, if you want to speak, you can. And over on Wisdom, just click the join the conversation button, and if I can help you to find family members or ancestry, get you started on your genealogy journey, then I'd like to do that. So my recommendation for everyone who's starting out doing genealogy, ancestry, working on your family tree, is to go to legacyfamilytree.com. Make sure I've got the right one. Yeah, Legacy Family Tree. Okay. Sorry, give me a minute. It's Legacy Family Tree.com. I was being stubborn. Don't you love technology when it works? So legacyfamilytree.com. What that will allow you to do is that'll allow you to download the standard version, which is a free version of a database that you can start and keep your information in. And it allows you to add your, like your 2 parents and your 4 grandparents and your 8 great grandparents, if you're so lucky to be able to fill all those in. But yeah, legacyfamilytree.com. They have a free standard edition for free download, and that is a great database. I think the upgrade now is $35. Probably 20 years ago when I did the upgrade, it was $20. But that's a great place to start, and it allows you to now. Right now on Fireside, the only person that I see in the room is Tamara. And Tamara, I'm going to be terribly rude. I'm going to eat ice cream in front of you, but I'll offer you some. More than welcome to come visit us at Bryden Farm. That's our homesteading farm here in Bear River, Nova Scotia, Canada. When somebody brings me ice cream, I'm not going to refuse. So Legacy Family Tree, great database. Now, the second website, also a free website, is familysearch.org. On whether it's a free site or a paid site, if you are going to a website, and it's not to pick on Family Search, but if you're going to a website that has trees on it that provide you hints or tips as to, this might be your grandfather, this might be, proceed with caution, because even though the people who have put their trees there have done so in most, if not all cases, with best of intentions, they are human like me and can make mistakes. And so those hints are based on trees that other people have submitted in most cases. Always be sure to look for an actual record, whether that be vital stats, like birth, marriage, or death record, or a census record, or a military record, or that type of thing. Always be sure to source. And I know, because I'm guilty of it, I know what it's like to be excited and working and finding information and, I'll go back to it. I'll put the source in after. Don't do that to yourself. I've done it so many times. Take your time, pace yourself, even when it's exciting. There are times it's grueling trying to find information. There are other times that it's exciting. Take your time, enter your sources, and you'll thank yourself later. And you can reference back and see what other information you might have missed the first time. Trust me, I speak from experience. Go to familysearch.org, click on the search button, and then on the records on the drop down menu. And that is going to open up a page. Now, I should also say that Family Search, I usually say this right off the bat because I like to give them credit. Familysearch.org is a service provided by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm not what's commonly referred to as Mormon. I'm not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but I am certainly thankful for the work that they've done in this free website that they provide, which houses, among other things, actual historic records, like census records, and provides a great resource of information. Charlie, I see that you have joined. I always invite anyone who wants to come up to speak to do so. So I'm going to send you that invitation. Don't let me scare you away. I had somebody pop in and out probably, but I did that to somebody last week, I think. And as soon as I did, they disappeared. So don't despair. So just to quickly recap, to get a free database, go to legacyfamilytree.com and download the free standard edition. I used that probably for my first 10 years of research and then upgraded. And I think the upgrade today is like $35 maybe. And it's such a good resource. It's such a good database. It'll allow you to enter and keep track of your information that it will, that I recommend it for everybody. And the other website that I was referring to is familysearch.org. And Charlie, I see that you come up. Do you have a question? Do you research, or what's your story?
Hey, how you doing? Welcome. Thanks for welcoming me to the show. I've been doing my own research through Ancestry,
Nice.
and a lot of my information from my family is pretty close. It's right downtown in the city I live in, and there's a lot of history there. So I just got to take time to go down there and go through the archives, and I will probably find more information than ever before. But just haven't taken the time to go down there.
That's that's excellent for you, and it's excellent information. I actually forgot to mention that tonight. The best place that you can start is closest home. If you have family members, or like parents, grandparents, or even community members that remember them, um, go and talk to them. Go to your local library. They usually have an archives. Maybe a local historical society. Uh, those are all kinds of good places to start at, and go from there. Um, is there anything that I can help you with, Charlie? Or any questions, or
Um,
any family names or anything that I try not to mention publicly anyone who's still alive,
mhm.
um, but just kind of put that out there as a little caution.
Yeah, I no, I just wanted to come along and listen to you and learn a little bit, and maybe on the next show I'll have some more questions for you. Some questions for you. So, but
Yeah,
I just wanted to follow you and support you. That's all.
absolutely. I appreciate that. It's I've only done a few of these on Fireside, and I'm also simulcasting this over on. I have the Wisdom app open as well, so I
Nice.
on both at the same time. Getting used to flipping back and forth and trying to trying to keep track of it. And the may I ask what city you're in?
New Bedford, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Did I was I on one of your calls, one of your chats the other night?
Yeah, you was.
Okay,
I
okay.
appreciate it. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Now I know. Okay, cool, cool. The
Awesome.
yeah, if you have any questions anytime, you feel free to reach out to me. I've been trying to get back to one of your talks. Um, the would you like to mention your talks? What you're working on?
Um,
On
yeah. Well, this current moment, uh, I'm working on Black history from New Bedford, Massachusetts. I felt that it was Black History Month, and I thought that it would be a little bit better for me to bring out the Black history within our city, and so that's what I'm doing. And a lot of people have thanked me for bringing up some of the people and places that I mentioned, only because they didn't know any of the facts, and so and that's what history is about, is to pass it on to someone else, you know.
exactly.
So,
The
but yeah,
yeah,
so I'm trying to get on as much as I can. Um, and I, if it's once, twice, maybe three times a week, I'll do that, you know. But you keep it up, keep on doing what you're doing, because I
thank,
guarantee you, there's somebody that needs your help. There's many
thank
people that need your help.
thank you, Charlie. And if I've only been able to take in the one of your broadcasts so far here on the Fireside Chat app, but you did an excellent job. So I look forward to hopefully catching another one.
Thank you very much.
All
All
right.
right, I'll leave the stage and I'll listen to you.
No problem. I'm here if you have any questions, and you as
Uh,
well, Tamara. I'm
take
just going to do a little quick go check over on Wisdom. I don't want to ignore my peeps over there. If anybody has a question, or if I can help you, hit join the conversation button, and be glad to help you out. So, yeah, you can do a lot of research for free. Um, so legacyfamilytree.com, familysearch.org. Charlie mentioned Ancestry. Ancestry is a paid service, but it is definitely a valuable resource. And I'm actually going to leave that tab open and come back to that. I have a little bit to say about my positive experience with Ancestry. So on FamilySearch.org, when you go to that, again, click on the search. There's a drop-down menu, click on records. And that's the way I recommend you start. You can go and look at other people's trees and other information and so on, but especially when you're starting out, I find that clicking the search and then the record button is a great way to start. And when you get there, put in the person's name who you're looking for. So let's say, I have no idea, I'm just let's say that you're looking for George Snow, and let's do a ballpark, real wide ballpark. Let's say 1900. I actually knew a George Snow, and I don't know if any information would be on about him or not. I just thought I would use that name. An older gentleman from the community that I grew up in. And when you're doing your research, you try to get someone. So what's publicly available are records that are deaths that occurred at least 50 years ago, marriages of at least 75 years ago, or births of about 100 years ago. Now, there are exceptions depending on which state or province you're in, but that's a pretty good rule of thumb. And it's funny, George Snow that I look for on FamilySearch.org, the one that I'm thinking of didn't come up, but of course it's a fairly common name, more common than we'd think. And there was one who was born in 1851 in England. Another one born in 1906, died in 1980 in Richmond, Virginia. All of these link to on FamilySearch.org and records. The first one actually links to Billion Graves, which is a paid service. I believe there's part of that that's free as well. And then there is the United States Genealogy Bank. And so all of these link off of FamilySearch.org. Now, I have used Billion Graves. They're a great resource. There are definitely tools that they have that Find a Grave doesn't have. But when you're getting started, I encourage people to do things the cheap way. And I think over the years, a lot of times I've had to do it that way. And so that's why I recommend people don't spend a lot of money to get started in your research. Use and exhaust the free resources first. And, really, I have a 40 plus year background in sales, marketing, and customer service. And about half that time online. And there are a number of free and inexpensive services out there if a person only takes time to find them. So Find a Grave, findagrave.com. And they have, according to what it says on the top of their site, the world's largest gravesite collection with over 626 million memorials created by the community since 1995. So I'm just going to keep on her same name here. If there is anybody who, wants me to look for somebody, let me know, whether it's on Fireside or over on the Wisdom app, and I'll definitely do a search for you while I'm here. So I'm just going to do again George Snow, born 1900, and I think that's actually a little early for the George Snow that I'm thinking about, and but that's interesting. One of the ones that come up on Find a Grave, and again, findagrave.com, is George Snowball. I love that, and didn't know that was the first time I've ever seen that last name. You do this for a while, and names, unique names especially, take on a significance, I guess is the best way to put it, or are of interest. So George Snowball was born in 1900 and died 1969 in Dexterville, Wood County, Wisconsin. So it's just a neat name. One of my favorite names. Someday I'm going to do a book on favorite names in genealogy, not necessarily my ancestry, but genealogy research. Back in the early days of Massachusetts, Plymouth, when the Pilgrims arrived, or shortly after, there was a Mr. Fish. His first name was Preserved. Preserved Fish. And so that was not one of my ancestors, but one of my friends who's now passed. But that was one of her ancestors, and that's always been one of my favorites. Preserved Fish. Again, if you are listening over on Wisdom, feel free to hit the join the conversation button if I can help you. I'm also broadcasting at the moment over on the Fireside Chat app, so if you'd like to join me there, you can. And just looking for anybody who may be looking for family members, wants to get started in doing your own ancestry or family research. And I'm watching a bowl of ice cream on one side, and I'm watching my girl here on the other, because she would love to have it too, but it happens to be chocolate. No. So no. You're welcome to come on over and have some, though. So familysearch.org, use the search and then the records, and that will help you greatly. The other thing is, in the U.S., the 1950 census is now available. So if you do that, you'll remember me saying that in order to get a birth record, a public birth record, you will most likely, in most cases, have to go back 100 years before they become public. But if somebody was in the U.S. and is 73, 74, 75 years old, they're now appearing, or may appear, in the 1950 census record. And because at that point they were most likely an infant, or if they're in their 80s or 90s, teen or young adult, they most likely will show up with their family in that 1950 census. Here in Canada, Canada's not quite as, how do I put it, forthcoming, ready to share that recent of information, unfortunately. But we do have access to the 1921 census in Canada, and soon we're waiting for the 1931, and that'll open up more doors for people who are researching. And so the cemetery site that I do use Billion Graves, but the one that I go to the most often is findagrave.com. Now, the other thing is, if you are looking for someone who is has died more recently, who it hasn't been 50 years, what I would do is go to Google, good old Google, and type in obit, short for obituary, and the person's name, and if you can, okay, I'm looking because I wasn't sure. This is kind of proceeding with caution here, because I wasn't sure. I've been using George Snow, who was well respected in the community that I grew up in, and I thought I remembered that he passed a year or two ago. Well, using Google, I just confirmed that yes, he did. So what I did is I put in obit George Snow, and I didn't have to put in the community, but it come up. George Albert Snow, Wednesday, August 1st, 1923, and he was the same age as my adopted mom and dad, and so that's how I remember him so fondly. Not they weren't born on the same day, but they were basically the same age. And 10 years ago today was the day that my dad passed. And so George and my dad were good friends. And George Snow, he passed the 7th of April in 2020. So he outlasted my dad. But he died in the Yarmouth Hospital. And so I'm going to read his obituary. One, because it's public. Two, because I want to point out a few things in an obituary that you can maybe look for. We've had another person join the audience here on Fireside. Now, I can't pronounce the name. I think it may be a moniker, but I am going to invite you to speak in case you do have any questions. If I can help you to find family members or ancestors or help you get started in your research. That's what I'm here to do. And you don't have to speak, but just in case anyone does have questions, I'd like to invite each one to speak. And I'm also broadcasting at the same time on the Wisdom app. I love that app in the Wisdom community. So if there's anyone over there who has questions or would like to join the conversation, hit join the conversation, and be glad to field those questions as well. I'm actually the only second time I've done this on both platforms at the same time. So if I happen to miss somebody, be forgiving. But so Honorable George Snow. I remember the story that my dad told me of when. Now I'm trying to remember. Here in Canada, locally for the province, we have MLAs. That's member of the Legislative Assembly, which I think is the same as statesman for the U.S. states. And we have members of parliament who are part of our federal government, who I believe would be similar, stand to be corrected here, but similar to governors or federal members of the government in the U.S. But I remember my dad, and I'm trying to look down here because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty certain that George was an MLA for the province. And I do remember that he come to my dad and he had an acceptance speech of about 8 pages. And when he was elected, they made him trim it down to only about a page. So I always found that kind of interesting because it doesn't really matter, I don't think, which party it happens to be. It just happens to be politics in general. Not here to start any political arguments, by the way, but George, I think I might have just had a question over on wisdom, so please bear with me here for a moment. So Doobie over on wisdom, what would be an initiative or enticing purpose should one consider doing this? So that's a great question, Doobie. And for me, it's almost hard to put into words. I wouldn't necessarily call it a spiritual connection, although it could be. Let's say a heartfelt connection to somebody in my ancestry and my family that I am, even though I may never meet them, if it's an ancestor beyond a grandparent or great grandparent, I probably won't. My grandparents passed before I was born in most cases, and my adopted mom's mom, I remember her sitting in her chair. She died in January, and I turned 4 that March. So that's a memory from when I was 3 years old. And my adopted dad's dad come to live with us before he passed. And he always got me up on his knee and told me the story. So taught me at the same time. Told me the story of the tortoise and the hare. And I think in some ways, when I've enjoyed my life the most, it's been based on that story. Now, earlier generations tend to have the same connection for me, even though I've never met them. There's a definite heart connection. And the other thing is, in school, when I was in school, I hated history. But now that I can think back and know who was there at the time, at that moment in history, whenever that was. Like when I think back to, like I said, one of my favorite names wasn't exactly my ancestor, it was a friend's ancestor. But when you think back to the Pilgrims coming to Massachusetts, and one of them was called preserved fish, that's priceless. You know, the if it was my own ancestor, it would probably be more meaningful. But it's making connections, even with the people in our past, whether they be our own ancestors or others, and learning about them, their way of life. I don't know. To me, it goes beyond words. Um, I suppose in some ways it's a spiritual element, but it's a very heartfelt element. So, getting back here to the obituary, because there's a few things I want to point out that may help somebody. I saw the applause there, Doobie. You're more than welcome. Thank you for your question. The sorry, Honorable George A. Snow, and it's ECNS. I honestly am not sure what that is. I believe it. Well, no, I don't. I don't want to guess and get it wrong. I believe he was a member of the Conservative Party, so I'm thinking possibly Eastern Conservative Nova Scotia, but I stand to be corrected on that one. Died April 7th, 2020. Passed away from this life peacefully in his sleep from complications following a short bout of pneumonia. It was a sad day in the community. George often said that he had a good life. He came from a long line of fishermen and was a Mayflower descendant. So speaking of the Pilgrims, he come from one of the ones who come over to Massachusetts, to Plymouth, on the Mayflower. Left behind to mourn are his children, and it lists the children so that you could, if this was your grandfather or if this was a family member, you could fill in his children. George was predeceased in 2005 by his wife, the love of his life, and his best friend, Marjorie. So that's key, because now you know, if you're searching for that person, that you can now search for George Snow and Marjorie, or George and Marjorie Snow. And that name combination may trigger something to come up in Google or other search engines or other places that wouldn't have otherwise. And the other thing is, it helps to narrow it down. So if you get too many results, being able to put in the wife's name can help find more if you need it, but it can also help narrow it down if needed. So it's interesting that way. It just happens to be the way that the search engines work. He was the son of Albert Snow and Lottie Lamrock. Lottie Lamrock. Nee Lamrock. N-E-E. N-E-E, or Nee, indicates a maiden name. So now if I wanted to, because with George born in 1923 in Nova Scotia, he wouldn't be in the 1921 census. However, he should be, perhaps, in the 1931 census, which will soon be out. But there's a good possibility that if I took his father's name, father and mother's name, Albert Snow, and Lottie Lamrock, and went back over to, so Albert Snow, go back over to Family Search. Now, I don't know when his father would have been born, but I have Lottie's name, So back over to Family Search, click on Search, click on Records, and because we found that in the obituary, we'll search for that, and still don't have, okay. So, Albert D. Snow, Principal, Canada, Nova Scotia Vital Records, 1763 to 1957. Marriage in 1914 in Shelburne, Nova Scotia, to Lottie B. Lamrock. Now there's another result right below that says not Albert D, but says Albert Douglas Snow. Marriage, not just 1914, but the 4th of May, 1914. And again, not just Shelburne, Nova Scotia, but Port Latour, Barrington, Shelburne, Nova Scotia. So narrows it down. The interesting thing is his parents' names, Howard and Jenny. So that gets us back another generation. And so that's how you start to build. Start by talking to your parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, community members that knew any of them, and enter that information in your database, your free database from Legacy Family Tree. And that will help you get started doing your family history and genealogy for free. Now, Charlie mentioned Ancestry, and I have had I've used Ancestry a lot, and I've had a lot of success using it. It is a paid website. It's a paid service, however you want to word that. But the other thing is the same as FamilySearch.org, which is a free site. Ancestry also gives you hints, and those hints are once again often based on trees that have been contributed by other people. And in some cases, those people only copied that information from another tree and so on. Learn to find the sources, the census, the military, the birth, death, marriage records. And the best free site I know to do that on is FamilySearch.org. Just want to have a look back over here and see. I do have a guest on Wisdom. Daryl with the dashes. Daryl is becoming a good friend and is absolutely a key person over on the Wisdom app, one of my favorite online communities. Hi, Daryl. Good, good. I don't. I don't. There may be. It would be. It would be interesting. It would be something that I can see the AI applications making inroads into. So one of the things that comes to mind first is being able to read cursive and being able to decipher cursive. Um, you know more about AI, I think, than I do, so I'm not sure how it would handle that. I think that may be an area where they may encounter more errors. Well, it can get. I mean, they're people's handwriting is difficult for human eyes to decipher at times. Um, I mean, I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know, but I'm guessing that if AI was to scan enough cursive writing in different people's handwriting, that perhaps they could it could get to maybe even be more effective. But I think it would be true, right? But right, as you probably know, a big part of the facial recognition is basically from the eyebrows to the bottom of the nose, right? Like and it would be interesting to see. Um, it would be it'd be interesting to see how it handled that. It'd be interesting to see how it handled cursive writing, handwriting, and if it did, I can definitely see AI an AI application being very handy um to help with doing the research. Well, I'll tell you what AI can do that. Well, maybe not that AI can do that I can't do, but I'm assuming that AI could run circles around me time wise. What I mean is, it would take AI an hour to do what I could do in a month, and those are just numbers. But I think it could be much faster using AI if there was an application that would handle that needs to be handled. Right? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Right. The and depending on what it is, it might be a day or a year for me, but but yeah, it is seconds, right? And so, if I could, yeah. Now, there's a certain element about doing family history or genealogy that it's just fun to do, right? So I think it would take out a lot of the fun part of it, but maybe if it could break down some of what we refer to as brick walls, like, we just can't get to that next ancestor or can't figure it out. And there was an AI app that could, go boom, there's the information compared. This is your person. there'd be a lot of people falling off their stools. Like, you know, I have one family line in particular that more or less I've made discoveries on every, like, the next generation has taken me 5 years of research to get to, right? Uh, I think most of the ones that I have helped, I've known in some like on some level that we've been related before. It might be at a distance. Um, like I have a cousin match, a DNA cousin match that I helped find her birth record and actually helped her connect to her mother's side of her birth family. I still don't know, and I don't think she knows exactly how we are connected. And she was adopted, so I don't know if she knows yet who her father, the generation or two that her father or grandparents would be. But we can track it down to, I don't know, rough it out and say the third generation, 3 generations removed, maybe even 2 generations removed. But so so with DNA, um, with any research, I mean, it's the same as if I go on, like right now, I just opened up the Ancestry app, there, not app, website. There's hints. So if I go follow those hints blindly and it's something that somebody has just copied over and over again and there's no actual source, there's no uh, record, do I trust that information? So it's kind of the same, it's kind of along the same lines. So this is why, like, I encourage everyone to download the free database from legacyfamilytree.com and enter your information there to help you keep track of it. And then the second site that I recommend, even though I'm not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they provide a wonderful website which is familysearch.org. But when I send people there, I send them to the search and then ask them to click on the records rather than relying just on the hints or family trees that people have contributed. Because if you had a family tree on Ancestry or Family Search or any other website, and I mean, I know you well researched, but if you did and you didn't have sources and you had just copied that from somebody who copied it from somebody who copied it from somebody, first of all, every time we copy it, we're human, we can make mistakes. Um, but if there's never been a source and it's just copied from somewhere, I encourage everybody to exercise caution on that. Right. 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 And that's what I can see, uh, and being able to do it, like you say, I said in an hour, but really, you're right. It could be the double check in a matter of seconds. Right. And kind of surprised they don't already have it, to be honest. Probably wouldn't surprise me, and I just uh, kind of makes me, it's going to sound a little bit lame, I suppose, to some ears, but it kind of makes me a little bit excited because there's things that I have ancestors, like third great grandparents or whatever that I don't know who their parents were. If I could pull together all that information and accurately come out with all that information, I think I may be wrong, but I think in most cases, if we were able to take that information and pull it together, there's an answer, right? But it's like a and and the thing is, and I go back to that again. I love doing this. This has been my passion and my hobby, and if for over 30 years. I probably could have been really productive if I had AI, but I wouldn't have had half as much fun. Exactly. Right? They right? Might actually have to go to work. Four-letter word. The it's yeah, no, that a great question, and who knows what this brave new world will bring, and none of us really know if it's going to be good or bad, but we're gonna we're along for the journey. Mhm. Right. Yep. Right. The and it's all right. Thanks, Daryl. That, that for those of you who don't know, that was Daryl with the dashes on the Wisdom app, part of the Wisdom community. If you are part of the Wisdom community and you are new or have questions, or just want to be part of a good conversation, Daryl has office hours, his chat, on Thursday mornings, which often has the founder of the Wisdom app, Dio, who helps with that. And I encourage everybody to check that out on Thursday mornings. And great question about AI. Daryl has a lot of interest in that area and how that may or may not affect us, not just doing genealogy, but in different areas of our life. And always appreciate conversation with him. And just to give you an idea, if you haven't been on the Wisdom app or Wisdom community, that's just some of the type of conversations that we have over there. Definitely one of my favorite uh, online communities. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Kathy has joined. Kathy, don't let me scare you away, but I'm going to invite you to speak because I invite everyone to speak just in case you have questions. Or if you have somebody that you'd like for me to help you find or get you started or find an ancestor. And that goes for everyone on both Fireside Chat and doing this talk also over on Wisdom. And so if you're on Wisdom and you have questions or you'd like for me to help you, click the join the conversation button. And can't guarantee that I'll find, but I can certainly help. And so what we had looked at so far, just a real quick recap for anybody that just joined, legacyfamilytree.com. Get your free database there, standard edition, free download. Been using that for years, probably used it for 10 years before I did the upgrade, and right now the upgrade I think is in the area of $35. Then, once you have your database, go to familysearch.org, click on search, and then on the drop down menu, records, and do your search there. That will help you bring up the actual vital stats, census, military, and other records. The other website that I mentioned is Find a Grave, which is has millions of memorials, headstones, some of them with obituaries and other family information. And then I looked for an older gentleman who is friends with my dad in the community that I come from. And on George Snow's obituary, we had just read that he was the son of Albert Snow and Lottie and Nee Lamrock. Nee meaning N-E-E, meaning maiden name. And then I took that information and I went back over to familysearch.org, and there I found a marriage record for Albert Douglas Snow, who the 4th of May 1914 in Port Latour, municipality of Barrington, county of Shelburne in the province of Nova Scotia, where I am. His parents were Howard Snow and Jenny Snow. Well, Jenny's maiden name may not have been Snow, but Albert Douglas Snow married Lottie Bell Lamrock. And that's how, using those free tools, you can begin and actually do a lot of research without ever having to pay for anything. Charlie mentioned Ancestry, and I've done this talk a few times, and I usually mention all the free resources. And to date, I haven't mentioned any of the, or very few, I haven't discussed any of the paid options. And that's because I believe that people can do so much with the free. Having said that, Ancestry is an incredible system, site, and tool for anybody researching their family tree. And if you can afford it, I highly recommend it. I still suggest, however, that you exhaust the free first, because why go spend money on something that you aren't sure if you're going to be interested in? I mean, you're probably interested in your ancestry, but are you really interested in the research? If you start using some of the free resources and this becomes half as interesting to you as it is to me, then, if you can afford it, go to Ancestry, go to Family Search, those places. Ancestry has, again, trees with hints, so be cautious. Always do your sourcing, always look for your records. And it has a search function, and it also has DNA. That's a whole talk in itself. The search function, there again, you can search all collections, or you can search census and voter lists, birth, marriage, and death, immigration and travel, public member trees. I appreciate people's trees, don't get me wrong, but when you're researching a tree or following a hint or a leaf on Ancestry or any other site, just make sure that you back it up or do your best to find the source to back up that information. Or in some cases, to refute that information. The other thing on that drop-down menu on the Ancestry search, military, card catalog, and member search. So those are all very handy tools. I suggest starting with the census and voter lists if you're back in the US looking for someone who was born before 1950 or currently in Canada born before 1921. Soon to be released will be the 1931 census. So that'll be anytime a new census record comes out, or a new census year comes out, it's made publicly available. It becomes a wonderful tool and research opportunity for all of us who are doing this. I want to double check back on Wisdom. If there's anybody there with any questions or you want to join the conversation, click join the conversation. And same on Fireside. If there's anybody who has been listening and you have any questions, feel free to ask. And otherwise, I think that I'm going to call it a chat, call the end of the chat, because I don't want to overload you with information. So, growing your family tree. That's how I start. That's how I title these talks, and I do that for a few reasons. Shameless self-promotion behind each of them. GrowingYourFamilyTree.com is my website. Over on Amazon, I've self-published a couple of books. Growing Your Family Tree, Sorting the Wheat from the Chaff, kind of the subtitle. And the other book over there is From Irish Roots, which celebrates that part of my family. And if I can be of any help to anyone, if you want to send me a message or contact me later, you're welcome to do that. But if there's anyone who is on the Fireside chat or Wisdom, right now it's your opportunity to ask your questions, get them answered for free. If you want me to help you get started on your family tree and you'd like to provide me some names, I can do some free research for you and help you get, perhaps the first 2 or 3 generations to help you get started. And if you ask during the chat or the broadcast, then I'm willing to do that for free. So, going once, going twice. If there's anybody on Wisdom, hit join the conversation button if you want. If there's anybody on Fireside, now's the time to ask. All right, thank you for listening. I am loving this. This is I absolutely, first of all, I absolutely love Wisdom. My favorite app, my favorite community, and I'm also really starting to like this Fireside chat app because of the reach. Only been on Fireside for maybe a month, and I've already grown a following of over 1,600 people. Now tonight there's three, 4 in the room, but some will listen to it on replay, some will never listen to it. But I can tell you that when I was on other social media platforms, it took me a lot longer than a month to get to 1,600 followers. So I really appreciate Fireside Chat for that. And I want to thank each of you on Fireside and on Wisdom who have stopped by, whether it's been for a few minutes or if you've been here and listened through the whole thing. Greatly appreciated. So I am going to end the chat now, not seeing any further questions. And thank you to Daryl and Charlie, and I think it was the two who had questions tonight. If there's somebody else and I'm forgetting, I apologize. Have a wonderful day, and if I can help in any way, be sure to let me know. Thanks again.